camp on people's property or what?
Yeah, they just come in.
And they camp out.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get them to go away.
And nobody's going to go and start howling at them. Because they'll do something to your...
Oh, yeah.
So, they put up their tents.
Yeah.
And they're playing music at night and dancing. And they have a fire outdoors.
Wow.
That's how they cook.
Ah.
But John, did they put these tents on somebody's property? Or
Yeah. It was right across the street from where I was living.
But
it was very... I lived in the woods.
Yeah.
And across the street, there was woods too, but the man cut all the trees down and made a garden like.
Yeah. Huh.
And I remembered, you remembered when Orson Welles had a program on the radio.
Mm-hmm. You mean the War of the Worlds?
He scared the hell out of everybody. Everyone who had a radio and was listening.
Yeah.
He says the Martians have landed in Morristown.
Yeah.
It was
in Morristown?
In Morristown.
Right over Whippany.
and going in towards Whippany.
Oh my God.
Every farmer who had a shotgun, he was outside.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was something. They really got him, boy.
Wow.
Jenny,
the guy across the street.
Very good.
Yeah.
Some is more sweeter. Some.
The guy that was living there across the street, a ways from us up on a hill, you know, he hung himself.
Oh.
Why?
He was afraid.
On that day?
Of
the Martians?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
God.
kidding me. He was so scared of the Martians that he hung himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did Orson Welles ever find out that he effectively caused somebody to die?
Oh, boy, they were after him.
Wow.
And he went to South America and pulled the same thing.
What do you mean?
They're ready to run him out of the country.
Wow. Wow.
It has to be in jail.
You can't do that.
Because when I heard about that in school, they always told us that they, said at the beginning that it was a story, but that if you missed the beginning, that then you thought it was real.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Every farmer there, or every person that had a house, he was out there with his gun.
Oh my God.
God, if somebody walked by, he might have shot them.
Yeah.
Wow. What time of the year was that?
Huh?
What time of the year?
That was during, I'd say, like a fall.
Okay.
Nobody doesn't need to do it.
So now you said you were going to you put on your mantle you got an award for going across the equator.
Good for you.
Oh, just the certificate I got.
Now explain what exactly you did when you went across. Explain what happened when going across the equator.
Oh God, it's 3 days.
Jenny, have you heard this about what happens going across the equator?
They have to go on their belly or something, and
3 days.
Yeah.
The initiation is, and the uniform of the day is white shirts. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else.
Oh.
And you walk around, and if you're a pollywog, got to remember that. And the ones that have gone through are shellbacks.
Okay.
And if the shellback wanted to have his laundry done, you have to do it. If he approaches approaches you and says, I want you to do my laundry. You have to do it.
So everybody clean their own laundry like in a bucket, or
Huh?
how do you? Everybody clean their own laundry in a bucket, or
In the ocean, I think.
Well done. We did that too. But we had a laundry on the ship that did it with machines and dryers and that. But they also had, as a backup, if that breaks down, you do it in a tub.
got it?
And then this was down South Pacific, and
Likes to ride the bike.
they would go over and say,
Better have a turn in the
want you to go up on a bow and tell us when we go over the line. The equator. Well, of course, there's no such thing. But some of the fellas were figuring, they don't want to stay out in the hot sun so much. They'd say, oh yeah, there it is. And they would say, you're a liar. There's none.
All right, after
And then they said, okay, we're going to have lunch. Go down. They get seaweed. That's the bitterest weed you ever tasted. It looks nice. Gave you a big bowl. And that's when some of the guys were throwing up. And some of the guys figured, I'll drink it down quick, so I won't have to eat a lot of it. But then the guys would say, oh, you like it? With another plate full. It was, and at that time, all sailors who didn't go, even if you were an officer, you were nothing. You were the same. Everybody was the same. And then the final day came, and King Neptune was there with his staff, and he happened to be the fattest guy on the ship. He was a carpenter. So he stood there with his cape and everything, and no underclothing, but had a gold crown on there, and he had that pitchfork, and you had to go up and kiss his belly button. But the belly button was coated with grease. Right? And you had to go and kiss. And sometimes he would grab you by the head and push it in more on his belly button. And then they had a long trough where we always threw the garbage out after we ground it up, because they didn't want anything floating in the ocean. So, and you had to go in there and crawl in there, and the shellbacks had paddles. They made paddles, and they were pounding you in the ass. You would fall down in that dirty water. And then they had stainless steel tables, big ones. So a couple of the shellbacks, they got dressed up like doctors with white coats on, and they had knives, holy knives. And they said, oh, I think you need an appendix operation. and grab you and lay you down on a table, but they had water going, and it had electricity there.
Wow.
So when he took the knife and went, well, you swear to God, they cut you open. Oh,
Oh my God.
that was something.
Oh my God.
And then you had to crawl through this little tunnel they made with garbage, and they had a hose on the end of it, pointing in as you're coming out, so you can't get out so early, you know. And then they had the shellbacks, the ones who went through at the end, and they would help you get out of that tunnel there with garbage and all, and they'd shake your hands. What are you? And some of the guys said, we're pollywogs. Back through the line again. You had to say shellback. But I heard, so I knew. I didn't want to go through that again. But you got a big, nice, like a certificate. Even had the gold seal on it. And we had Admiral Byrd on our ship. And he signed it. You've heard of him?
I have not.
No? The one
Can you
who
raise the temperature of 1 degree just to kill this?
he was an explorer. He had so many medals on his chest. He couldn't even pin all of them on.
Wow.
And he went to the North Pole by himself.
Wow.
And he spent, I forgot how many weeks or months. And he was running out of food, of course. They would drop some of the food over with the plane. And the story goes that he invented the frozen food.
Invented frozen food.
Yeah, all vegetables. That's what he was eating
Wow.
by himself.
It's amazing. So, now, what type of ship were you on?
A light cruiser,
So how many people were on the light
750.
50. And what was the role of the light cruiser?
Huh?
What was the object? What was your goal? To shoot down other ships?
Oh, we were firing on where the Japanese were, on the islands. Then finally we went to what they called the northern part of Japan, Hokkaido. We used to go there in the summer, every month almost. Well, not month and a half.
Right.
Because it's 2,000 miles from our base.
Wow.
And the ship, we didn't travel fast because if we did, we'd run out of fuel.
Oh, okay.
So we had to go like standard 12, 13 knots.
Okay.
But the ship was capable of going 34 knots.
Oh, wow.
But boy, would you eat that oil up.
Yeah.
And the oil they used was the worst. It was like tar.
Oh, really?
You had to heat it up so they could spray it in the furnaces.
And what was the name of your ship?
USS Concord, CL-10.
Was that built?
Right, I think in Jersey somewhere.
What year was that built? Was that built for the war?
Oh, way before I was on there.
So it was more like, was it for World War One, or like 1920s, or?
Well, I have a little booklet. I could look it up. But
And so, how long were you on the ship for?
almost 2 years.
2 years. Wow. So you got to know everybody pretty well.
Well, no, really.
Well, yeah, I guess it's so big. Now, you had mentioned before that you had the incident where, number one, was there a fire on the ship, or?
Yeah, well, we had an explosion, and then fire, of course, came.
Right.
After the explosion.
And what happened? Why did it explode? Why was there an explosion?
Well, we were on a was 3 months we were on the ship. We were looking where to make bases to bomb Japan and the islands that where the Japs were on. So we had officials there from Eastern Airline. I don't know if you heard of them, but they were big. And they had 2 or 3 other airline, all big shots that were on. And we had one plane that we would shoot off our catapults. And he would take pictures. He was from the Army.
And he was able to land back on that ship?
He landed in the water.
Oh, okay. Then they pulled it back on, or?
Yeah, and then we had a crane that
Okay.
snap it up. I have some pictures of that.
That'd be interesting. So the fire happened, or the explosion happened, caused the fire, and then
Yeah.
now is that the explosion where the people were in the?
Yeah.
What exactly were the details on that again?
Well, about 24 were killed.
And this was an area that you were supposed to be in that room?
Yeah, after steering. Because they always had a breakdown there. But,
So they had lunch down there, or
Huh?
was it lunch, or?
hell no, it was a little cubicle. And in the stern of the ship, to keep the shafts going that would move the rudder,
Okay.
they had to be oiled, and that used to go in on the floor. And many times I was standing in oil.
Oh wow.
There was an electrician, a mechanical sailor, and a quartermaster.
What was your role?
I was a quartermaster.
And so what does that mean? What does it mean to be a quartermaster?
Oh, quartermaster, it was quite a job. You had to take care of all the maps. And by radio, they would announce such and such a ship was sunk. The name, so we knew who we lost. Because Tokyo Rose used to have a program and used to play music, and she used to say, why don't you go home, live with your wives or sweethearts. And they caught her after the war. I don't know what they did with her.
And who was this woman?
Huh?
This woman?
Yeah.
Who was she?
Girl.
Who was she that was telling you? Why was she telling you to go home? And she was a Japanese person?
Yeah,
Oh.
Tokyo Rose.
And what was she doing on the ship?
Not on the ship. They flashed it on the radio, which our ship would pick up.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So they're broadcasting to you.
Yeah.
It's like a show.
Yeah,
Okay.
propaganda.
I see.
So,
So, but the explosion happens, and you were supposed to be in this little cubicle room.
I was supposed to go down where the three men were, the electrician, the mechanical guy, and
Right.
the quartermaster. We had, I don't know, about maybe 8 quartermasters there on the ship. So everybody took turns, and it was my turn to go, but I was chipping paint. You did other things too.
Sure.
And I remember, and this happened to be almost near where the explosion started, and I happened to be working in a big, tall room with 5 bunks. That's a lot. And we had picked up before that Japanese subs, but we weren't able to sink them.
Right.
And this was around noontime. And all of a sudden I heard boom, and the whole damn ship was up on the stern. So and that was the day when in New York they had the World Series. And everybody was listening to it that could.
Right.
Well, and where I was below the waterline. So I figured it was a torpedo.
And you were in the stern or the bow?
Yeah, stern.
Okay.
I figured, well, right away, without anybody saying anything, I figured, oh God, the damn sub got us. Finally. So I started running up, and then they put the fire alarm on because they saw there was flames all over, and you wonder what burns on a ship? The paint.
Really?
Sometimes you have 5, 6 coats
Oh, wow.
of paint. That burns. And after that, I ran up topside because I figured if we were going to sink, I would want to get a chance to swim or something.
Sure.
And then the fire alarm went off, and everybody has their stations where they're supposed to go. And mine was right in the stern. Really on the stern. We carried
Below or on the deck?
on the top of the
Okay.
deck.
Okay.
And we had depth charges there for if we thought a sub was around. It was a big, like 55-gallon drum,
Right.
but that was full of explosives, and they had timers. You would turn it to go down so many feet, and then it would explode.
Right.
So, and that's near where the fire was. So another fella, we opened the latch, and these were lined up, maybe 8 of them, and on both sides. And I said, we better kick them off, because if that goes, we're going for sure. So we kicked it and rolled right off.
All of them?
All of them, yeah. And the timer wasn't set, so it
Just sunk
went to the bottom. Then I went into the compartment where I was supposed to go. And that was the chief's quarters. They're not officers, but they're next in line. And these were guys that had 20, 30 years in the Navy. Senior men, and they knew everything. And they had a big, long table there. And everybody was sitting around the table with their chairs. And when I got down there with the flames, I looked, and everybody is sitting at the table. But then I went over. I touched the guy, and he was dead. They were all dead.
And how many of them?
Concussion. Oh, there must have been about 6, 7 of them.
Wow. Now, were you supposed to be in that room or that area where
Yeah.
it could have happened?
Yeah, when there's a fire. That was my station.
But you were out painting, so you would have, if you weren't painting, you would have been in the room. So
Yeah.
your other 2 fellows that were in the room, they ended up dying.
Yeah. So,
I mean, do you think about that often?
oh yeah.
Like, what do you,
It's like it happened.
do you ever think that there's a reason behind it, or
No.
just
Then they start. Then I got off from the fire there.
so you're able to put it out? They put out the fire?
Yeah.
But
put it out.
describe to me that there was a one compartment that the fire was right below. Is that right?
Below,
Or-
the ammunition was below.
The ammunition was below, and the fire was right above.
And yeah. And the door leading to it during the explosion warped that you couldn't
Open it. It was-
open it. Two men. And they phoned up on the bridge right away. And we sent men down there to try to open it up. We couldn't.
It was sealed.
Sealed. So the captains told them what the situation is. He says we have to flood that compartment because if the fire goes any further, that's where it would blow up the whole damn ship. So you look at it, 2 men or 750.
Yeah, that's a bad phone call.
You know, you can do the math pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we still continue our mission, but we had 4 screws on our stern. One of them was no good,
After the explosion.
and so we had to steer with one on one side, one on the other side. We had 2 boats, I think about 40 feet long. They loaded it up in half an hour, the boat, with fish.
Wow.
But not all the fish were good.
Uh,
A lot of the fish had worms,
ooh.
like embedded in them and hanging down. Those we would not eat. But when I think about it, before the war, the Japanese used to go there and fish.
Huh.
They had ships that caught the fish, canned it before it got back to Japan.
Right.
And I'm sure they didn't throw those fish away.
The warm one, yeah.
That's why I will not touch any fish, can the fish from Japan, because I know how they operated.
Anyway, that's funny.
And I thought after the war, they had a lot of equipment there, a lot of trucks, a lot of cranes and stuff. Airplane motors even they had there.
Oh.
They left them. After the war, they left them there. They said it would cost too much money to transport them over, and they may be not good. Now, we had special clothing while we were there. We had like coveralls. They were lined with alpaca, like warm.
Because it was so cool.
And it was cold there.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of storms. So many times I would be wearing that. And after the war, I wanted to take mine home with me. Wouldn't allow me.
Why is that?
It's government property.
Huh.
So what they did was they put a big pile of almost as high as this house, and they lit it, burned it. You could have given the people here would love to have it.
Wow.
Waste.
Yeah.
So
What do you, when you heard the bomb, the atom bomb went off, I mean, did you probably weren't aware of it was going to happen. What went through your mind when you heard that one bomb or two bombs destroyed two cities?
well, the first thing that came into my mind, the war will be over. Nobody in their right mind would continue it, and especially they didn't know I only had two.
Right.
If we had more, why, it would level off. And the bomb wasn't hitting the ground.
Right. Detonated above.
Way up, and it leveled everything off. I just happened to see a program a couple of days ago. They have still some people alive in Japan that were burned by radiation. And they're looking for some money from Japan to help them, because they can't work. And when they look at you, they're distorted, they're burned. Nobody wants them. But I felt, and I guess most of the men on the ship felt the same way, that thank God we got the atom bomb, because if we had to take Japan itself, we would have lost 1 million men. They estimated it, 1 million, easy. Million of theirs, too,
Right.
because they would be killed, as well as ours.
Interesting.
And I didn't like the idea that they had Hirohito like a god. He's nothing. When he came down the street, if there were people on there, they could not look at him. They had to look down.
Wow.
And MacArthur, General MacArthur, he was the one that saved Hirohito's life. But I'll tell you, I saw men that were in concentration camps there. They had them as well as
Sure.
Germans had. And they maybe even had worse. They were using a lot of the soldiers for medical experiments. They killed a lot. I mean, they were skin and bones when we came there to open up the doors.
Wow. Did they survive once you got them, or did they still?
What got me was when they were in shock that they're being saved. What got me was when they saw us, they kneeled down to kiss our feet. That made me feel real bad. I cried.
Wow.
Who knows how many survived? Because they were experimenting with them.
Wow.
Some of the islands I remember, like Easter Island, was a unusual island. I didn't walk on it, but I could see these big stone statues. And you say to yourself, how in the hell did they ever get that here? All lined up. Oh.
Wow. Where is Easter Island?
They were 2,000 miles from South America. But they never had snow there. It was always tropical.
Right.
And the other island, where Mutiny on a Bounty. That was the true story.
Right.
And they had, at that time, 45 people on the island. So we anchored off because there was no harbor there, all high mountains. We invited everyone aboard our ship, and our doctor examined all of them. Some needed some bridge work. We had one dentist, so he took care of that. But the island had goats. I don't know how the hell they got the goats, but they did. So they had milk from the goat. and meat. And then they had some vegetation there, but very, very remote. There was nothing else around there. When we came there, we were the first ship they saw in 2 years.
This is at Easter Island.
Yeah. They knew there was a war on, but who was fighting, they didn't know.
How many people lived on Easter Island?
I don't know how many, but on the island that we were on, at that time, there was only 45. So, being a good Samaritan, we gave them food, and we ran out of food afterwards. I had rice for almost a month. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So I take it you're not very fond of rice these days.
I wasn't until just recently I ate.
Oh, very good. All right. I think we'll stop for now.
We had on our ship was built with rivets, not welded like they did later on. So you had a lot of rivets.
Right.
And on that section of the ship, the armor plates were 3 inches, and the rest was normal, whatever they had, maybe a ½ inch or something like that. And we were off Bora Bora Island.
Did you get on Bora Bora?
Huh?
Did you ever step foot on Bora Bora Island?
Yes, I did.
Because I hear that's beautiful, right?
Jungle.
Oh.
The people that were living there at the time, they had like roadways going into the island all around. And they would build their houses right across the roadway. So when you would walk in the woods, you want to go to the other side, you walk right through the house.
And why would they do that?
They didn't clean the jungle.
Because it was so much of a jungle.
Yeah. So I remember going through, and they had a meal. I don't know whether it was lunch, probably lunch, and they just ignore us. They're like we weren't there. We walked right through the house out the other side. That was strange. But I think that island now is built up. We probably have a resort there.
Yeah, I have a feeling because Bora Bora
But
is
But the ocean over there, they had so many sharks. And the women that had children, they would take them there, wash them, and back. But they had to look for the sharks. Well, you see the fins right away. You get the kids out. And we stopped I had to do some painting on a ship. And I was in a boatswain chair down. And all of a sudden, I don't think I was there maybe more than 15 minutes or so. I heard splash. I looked down and I see the shark. He was like jumping up.
Wow.
I knew he wasn't able to get me, but who knows? Damn rope would break. So I immediately hollered to the boatswain to pull me up. He says, "What for?" I says, "Look below me. The shark." He says, he won't bother you. I says, "Just pull me up." He says, "I'll put you on report." I said, "Okay." So I had to go before the captain. They call a captain's mast. And I knew the captain because I was a quartermaster.
So quartermaster's relatively high up?
Yeah. And quartermasters were right-hand rates. All others were left-hand.
What do you mean?
Don't ask me why, but that was considered a higher rank.
Because I mean, I don't know too many details, but Grant, U.S. Grant was a quartermaster.
Who?
Grant, President Grant, Civil War.
Yeah.
He was a quartermaster during the Mexican-American War.
Well, I don't know.
So they pulled you up.
So they pulled me up and then he put me on report, and then I had to go before the board and the captain, and whatever the captain says, that's what happens.
Right.
So he said, I said there was a shark below. I says, and I didn't particularly care for that. I says, we have old ropes on these boats and chairs. So he said, did he take the boats and chair and went down and complete the job? I says, no, he didn't. And he had the boatswain mate there. So he didn't lie. I mean, he says, anytime you tell a man to do something and he doesn't, it's your duty to finish that. When he warns you that there's danger, well, you should complete it. And after they threw it out, and they put him on report
Right.
instead of me. But I was always near the captain because I was on a bridge a lot.
Okay.
He had a little closet that had a bed in there, and he slept there when we were out on a mission. But normally he would be down. He had a lovely cabin down on the main deck.
Okay.
And the admiral had another one, and the admiral had even a cook who was there.
So the admiral's the highest,
Oh yeah,
and the captain's the next one.
yeah. And
So what other things come to mind, like story-wise, that?
well, when the war was over, we had to come to the northern part of Japan. We had a ceremony there. Had the Japanese officials come to sign, and we had admirals on our side. I have pictures of that. And the harbor was the biggest harbor in the world.
What city was this?
Island.
What city was this, or where was this?
I don't know.
Well, it was okay, but it was okay, Japan.
But when we came there, the Japanese ship came out to show us the way to go, because it was heavily mined.
Oh.
So when we came into the harbor, I think we even had a aircraft carrier with us and some other ships, heavy cruisers. I was on a light cruiser, so I had a friend that was on a heavy cruiser. When they dropped the atom bomb, they had to bring the bomb from the U.S. on a ship. And they had a funny situation. You couldn't communicate with the states. It was absolute silence.
Just for the ship that had the atom bomb.
So it was midnight when this Japanese sub happened to be right on the path where this cruiser was going.
With the atom bomb.
No, the bomb they dropped off, they were coming back. They never broke silence. That's what they were supposed to do. But
they already dropped the bomb off.
Yeah.
So could they break silence at that point?
No. That was the first bomb. The second bomb, they had two bombs.
Right.
They never reported where they were because they didn't want to break silence.
Right, they didn't want to know where the potential bombing would be.
So nobody was looking for them. And when the sub hit them, it was like around midnight, most of the fellas were sleeping. Thing went down, and they blamed the captain on that ship. I don't know why, but normally when we went, we never went on a straight line. We zigzagged. Because if there is a sub there, it's difficult for them to know where the hell you are, because you're here and then the next few minutes you're over there.
Right.
And nobody from the States thought of looking for the ship. I think it took a week before they found out it was off the Philippine Islands. And that place was loaded with sharks. Loaded. So I think of the crew, that ship carried 1,200 men. I think maybe 200 or a little more survived in the water, but the sharks went after them.
This is actually a famous. This was made into movies and stuff like that. This particular ship.
They,
Oh, and do you remember the name of the ship?
I think it was Chester. I'm not sure. And one of the men that was on the ship lived in Whippany.
Oh wow.
The father owned a store, and so I'm sure he must have taken it pretty hard, because I think he's the only son he had.
Wow.
Kuchinsky was his name,
And
last name. I don't remember the first name of the boy.
and you knew that guy obviously pretty well.
Huh?
You knew him well, right?
Yeah.
Did you know anybody else on that ship?
The what?
Did you know anybody else on that ship?
No. That was the only one. And I met him once on the Aleutian Islands.
Oh wow.
That ship came there for a few days. We didn't have any docks there. We were always using the buoys.
Now when you had, did you get downtime? Like, did you get to go take a break and stay at the islands or somewhere?
No.
Or you were always?
Oh, no.
Because this was wartime, so this is not.
No. I mean, we had between two of the islands, we had 50,000 men.
Wow.
That's a lot. But when we went ashore, what did we have? We went to the movie house, that's all.
Oh wow.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
No trees, no grass,
Wow.
just like stuff we have back there. It's cuts like, it just grows there. That's all that grows there.
Wow.
The rest was just cold mountains, very mountainous.
Huh.
We said, many of the men say, the hell do we want these islands? Give it to the Japanese, let them have it. You had very little sun. You were lucky if you got 3 days in a month,
Wow.
because it was always stormy, snow, and a lot of seals there. And we went fishing. I never saw anywhere so much fish.
Really?
We lowered the boat